So this is the toolbox where we put tools that we've shared with you online so that you can get to it whenever you need it, including the paper application that's now up there. So I wanted to welcome you all and let you know that what we're hoping to do today is I'm going to take 30 seconds to let you know what's going on with the program from the bird's eye view in terms of applications and other impacts of the program. And then we're going to talk a little bit about best practices for entering applications. I know that that's been hard. And that there's been some confusion. We talked about it last time. We'll talk about it a little bit more today about what's the easiest way for you to help an applicant who needs help submitting an application with the required information and signatures to the program. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I want to just turn it over to questions and answers from you all. I am going to share my screen real quick and show you a web page that is, and I'm going to put that in the chat too, a web page in case you're ever curious about where we are with the program. Oops. Yeah, this web page is our data dashboard that shows us what's going on in terms of the number of applicants. So I'm just going to share my screen for a minute so you can see that. So this is the data dashboard that's on the VHFA website. And it tells us it's updated daily. It tells us how many applications we have submitted so far and what their status is. Right now we have 499 that have been reviewed to a point that we know that there's enough information to move forward with them. And we've had a total of 1,116 submitted applications. And then there's a little bit of information about the types of assistance that folks are looking for. So you can see in terms of pure numbers, we've had 50% of the applications have requested utility assistance. And the other 29% for mortgage assistance and 18% for property tax and a much smaller percent for property association fees. And that's pretty much what we expected. Then in terms of dollar amount, really it's the mortgage assistance that will be the biggest chunk of money expended by assistance type. We've had requests from these submitted applications already for $7.5 million in assistance. And in terms of drilling down to the utilities, most of it is 58% is for electricity assistance, and then also for fuel and water sewer. And then we have a viz that shows how well we're reaching different parts of the state. It's pretty well distributed relative to where the homeowners in the state are living. And we'll keep updating that to make sure we're reaching all of the parts of the state equitably. A little bit more about the demographics, the household size of the applicants, the age of the applicants, and some information about the race and ethnicity of the applicants. So I encourage you to explore that page when you get a chance and refer to it if you need to, if people ask you about the overall impact of the program. So I'd like to talk first, if we can, about best practices for entering applications. Michael had suggested that we spend a little time explicitly on this today, and I know we did chat about it last time, and I think that I would love to have Michael or Polly or Rebecca chat a little bit with the group about what is the best way for this group of organizations to help somebody who needs help with their application. This group that's on the call today is a mix of housing counseling agencies, legal service provider, and agencies that are not HCAs. They are agencies that are helping us explicitly with folks who are contacting them and requesting help with paper application, but aren't HCAs in the system. So give you that little background. Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about best practices for this?
Yeah, I can jump in.
Thank you.
So just over the course since the program has launched, it appears that many of you are submitting applications via the case management portal. The case management portal was not necessarily set up to submit applications. It was set up to manage cases after applications have been submitted. I know a lot of you have been submitting them via the case management portal because people haven't had emails. The problem with submitting the applications via the case management portal is we end up missing a lot of the demographic information, like the address isn't being input, phone numbers aren't being input, so it makes it hard to contact the applicant because there's already no email, which is why you're submitting it, the case management portal, and then we're missing the physical signatures. So we kind of talked about it. It would just be better to have a paper application filled out. That way we'll have the signatures, we'll have the address, and then somebody here can just make sure the paper application is entered properly into the database.
I have a question about that, Michael.
All right.
So I was doing them. I mean, I haven't done very many, but I did them through the customer interface. But then I felt like in our last meeting that it seemed like we were being told to use the portal. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. I mean, I don't know what everybody else got out of that. It was a little confusing, but that's what I thought the message was. But I did one yesterday and I entered all that address and everything. Why is, if you go through the case management portal, why are you not getting the address and contact information?
I'm not sure.
It
just hasn't been being entered on numerous applications.
Correct.
Also, just contact information hasn't been being entered, like phone
So
number.
going
Sometimes. Sorry,
if you go through the applicant portal, which is the customer facing one, you're required to put all that information in. But when you go into the case management portal, that requirement is bypassed. So we have found that there are a lot of people just not putting in the complete information when they're entering. So this may not apply to your situation if you're filling out every single line. But there are a few other things that are happening that we've kind of found out that I'll highlight just quickly. When you are done with an application, there's a button that actually says done that you have to click for that application to be submitted. You can't just close out. It saves it. That application is still there. But what happens is it doesn't go in the queue to be assigned to a caseworker. So it sits there almost like one of those pending, like save and return situations and not actually queued up to be worked. So please make sure that you, if you are doing it through the case management portal, that you are hitting the done button when you're done. And then if you are assisting applicants with document uploads, we found that some people are trying to upload it through the case management system for the applicant. But if the applicant has been sent an email with a link saying, hey, we need you to upload this document, they really need to upload it through that link, because returning it through the link, it actually triggers a task back to the case manager saying, this has been complete, this is moving on, and not just this is some random document that's being uploaded as part of additional case information. So those are a couple of things I think that people have struggled with in receiving notifications. Hey, I uploaded this document, but they didn't do it through the link in the email, or they've uploaded a document, but maybe a case note wasn't entered, and the case manager wasn't made aware that there was something that was different, and they have to tie it to what was being requested. So those were my two things that I noticed. The applicant portal, and so you mentioned customer interface. I'm not exactly sure which one you consider that. I would consider that the applicant portal, I think, is the one that we suggested using, because they will have more engagement. The case management portal is kind of that back end that you can go in and just enter it as walk-in, paper, or phone, and does not have the same requirements for document upload, all of those things that they need from the front end.
Rebecca, just to finish up with Karen, she put in a chat a question, which is she's wondering if you go through the case management portal and you don't hit done, is it listed separately?
The status is just different in the case management. I think it's still listed as pending, kind of like, they're not familiar with the statuses, but Leslie, you are.
Okay.
It doesn't get in the queue to be assigned the same way. It's almost like, it's not quite complete. It's like saved, but not submitted.
I don't know. So the one I put in yesterday, because I'm sorry, I thought that last Wednesday you said we should be using the case management portal, because that way we could access the applications again if something needed to be added. Because if you do them through the customer interface, you can't, once you hit submit, that's it, you're out. So that was my understanding. But anyway, I did one yesterday and it is listed separately. It's what is this? So there's HCA cases and reviewed tasks. And the one I did yesterday is under reviewed tasks. But what does that mean?
I don't know. I would have to go in and look at the actual case number and see. It could be that case managers have picked that one up and they're reviewing the tasks that have been assigned to them. There's a lot of different statuses depending on what the case managers have engagement level has been. So on that one, I don't know, and I need to, I guess, check this. So once the case is submitted, the whole reason that we were saying that you wouldn't see it again is because we are supposed to establish eligibility before we formally assign it to the HCA. Whether you helped with the application, that's one thing, but actually helping with housing counseling services, we are not supposed to assign those to a housing counseling agency until they've been approved for eligibility. So that is the reason why you weren't seeing those. And that may have some reason why they're separated a little bit between what's been assigned to you and what's still under task review until eligibility is established. If it's just recently been put in, of course, eligibility hasn't been confirmed.
All right. Well, I see what Bruce said. It would be great to be fully trained on doing applications. We have 40 people in our queue for HAP right now, and we have 200 people in our VRAP queue, and we're a little overwhelmed, and the guessing game is not sitting well with me. Like, we either need really instructions. Like, I can't spend an hour on a day off to do this and have no idea whether it's in or not, or what's happening with it.
Then my suggestion would be just to fill out a paper application, take all the documents, fax it, email it, whatever in, and the case managers will take care of it from there. And
really?
Then you don't
so just bypass the system that you guys created?
I mean,
or train us.
If you're going to do it through the applicant portal, which is the customer facing side, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I mean, we've received almost 2,000 applications successfully, and that it really walks you through notes, and Leslie and Polly and everybody really took a lot of time to say, hey, let's put this help text here, and let's, put this warning here. And there are lots of guidance on that front end of that applicant portal that I think would help both the applicant and yourself as you're walking through it. The back end is for people who are more the experts and they're just typing that in, or they've gotten a paper application and they're putting it in the system on your behalf, or it's not going to have all that guidance that you have from the front end. So that would be my recommendation, is either using the front end portal that will walk you through step by step when a document's required, all the things, or just fill out a piece of paper, collect all your documents, get your signatures, and send it in, and let one of our case managers enter it. And you won't have that frustration. And then once it's assigned, there's eligibility established and it's assigned to you, it'll show up in your queue, and you know that you need to offer services at that point. That would be my recommendation.
Thanks, Rebecca. We have a couple of hands up and some questions in the chat. Dawn, do you have a question?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I actually think that the portal is very user-friendly, and you know, it walks people through. If you start if you start at the beginning and you know, have a customer in front of you, it's very easy to do. It doesn't take any time at all, and it's very thorough.
So you're using it as the applicant facing portal, Dawn? Is that, yeah, that's the one that I'm familiar with. So thank you. Grace, did you have a question or comment?
I did. I just wanted to revisit the conversation that I think we had last time about getting applicant signatures. So I'm on some calls with national HAP advocates, and my understanding is that there are some other states, California being the one that I can distinctly recall, that are figuring out a system for authorized e-signers. There's nothing I can see in Treasury guidance that prohibits something similar to what the ERAP application does, which is it allows a community partner to check a box that says, applicant has authorized me to sign on their behalf. And then, you know, the community partner can go ahead and e-sign for the applicant, which I know is a huge barrier for our clients trying to mail things back and forth. Many of them can't interface with the internet because of COVID policies. People sometimes can't travel. There's only a handful of homeownership centers around the state, and so it's a haul for some people to get to offices. So I would really, really encourage VHFA to think about adding that option on the online application. And I'm going to stay in touch with advocates in other parts of the country so that hopefully, you know, I can share the models from other states' HAP programs. But from my perspective, there is nothing that prohibits, you know, allowing an authorized signer. And I think that's just going to make it a lot more accessible for folks and easier for the homeownership centers to get these applications filed on behalf of their clients.
Thanks, Grace. And did you say that California is doing that for their HAP program now, for the HAP program?
Yeah. I have a contact over there, Lisa Sitkin. She's at like the National Housing Law Policy. I think that's the organization she's with, but she was gonna stay in touch with me once they finalized their process. So I will let you know when I hear from her. Sure.
That's great. I think that Polly, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds like something we want to talk with our general counsel about when he's back.
Absolutely. That would be an absolute great bypass to, you know, to speed this up and alleviate a lot of back and forth and questions. And yeah, it ties up the legality part of it quite well. Yeah, thank you.
Is it helpful for me to send you? I can also now probably just get you a screenshot. Actually, probably anyone on this call could get you a screenshot of the VRAP application, what their signature page looked like, so that you can see that. But that's similarly a Treasury program, so I don't see why there would be any difference in terms of requirements.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, the more you can send along, the quicker we could get to that. Thank you, Grace. Dave, you had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back to Karen's concern about which portal to use. Really, the case management portal is for applicants who don't have an email address or don't have a useful or otherwise connection to the internet, because if you go through the applicant portal, all of their notifications are going to go via email. So if you have an applicant that doesn't have an email address, creating one for them and then going through the applicant portal really doesn't help, because they're never going to get any notifications of that. If it's somebody that either doesn't have an email or just doesn't have access to the internet or some other barrier, period. So if it's somebody who just needs help going through the application and they have an email address and are able to use the internet in that way, then you would go through the applicant portal and create and basically walk them through the applicant portal with them using their email. But the case management portal is really for other situations where somebody doesn't have that sort of access. And in that case, you'd either create one through the case management portal or do a paper application.
Dave, I would just recommend using a paper application. That way all the information is there, because if you go through the case management portal and we're missing signatures and this information, in the end, it's going to slow things down. Where if we just have a paper application, all the information there, all the signatures are there, it's not going to slow anything down. So I would just try to recommend a paper application at this point.
I agree, Michael. But it's just as easy for someone to skip an area on a paper application than it is in the case management portal. So, I do agree, though.
Thanks, you all. Kira has had some questions in the chat, and she has her hand up now. Kira, do you have a comment or question in addition? And we can also, maybe we can touch on, you can reiterate your questions from the chat.
Hi there. Thanks, Leslie. Hey, everybody. Really my question is directly about what Dave and Michael were just talking about. When someone does a paper application because they don't have an email address or whatever the reason might be, I did one yesterday. And so my questions around that are, how do we get an application number? Like, how long does that take? Because now my client has property taxes and utilities that are in threaten of being the utilities shut off. And I've gave her the responsibility to leave our appointment and to go call her utility company and say, I've applied for, HAP funds. And it takes 45 to 60 days. That's what I shared with her, because that's what I knew, for an application to be processed and funds to actually be, once you've been approved, for funds to be released. So she calls the utility company and she can only say, oh, I did a HAP application. But, everybody is over it. We have towns that are flat going to tax lien sale right now. We have towns or companies that are service providers that are going to shut off. And they have no proof, like no application number to say, hey, I'm really doing this. I'm not just saying I'm doing it. So any input on that would be helpful. Also, if we do a paper application and we fax it over and we mail it over, should we be doing both? And how much time does that add to that initial 45 to 60 day window?
So I would say if you fax it over, it comes to our office, it gets entered that day or the next day. So it's not really going to add too much time to the process.
Okay.
And once it's entered, there is an application number created right away.
Mm-hmm.
So the applicant can always call that 1-800 number and find out their application number.
Okay.
And then once they have that, then they can call the utility company or their mortgage servicer. Also, I noticed somebody had a question about balance increases with the 45 to 60 business days, or 45 to 60 days, sorry.
I think that was that Cody. Was that you, Cody?
Yeah. Cody.
Yeah, I can help out with that. I can jump in on that.
Okay.
Because what happens is once the applications are submitted and they go for review, and while it's going through that process of that 45 to 60 day, then it finally goes off with a V record to the servicing bank. And once it gets to the servicing bank, they're going to look at the status at that particular moment, and they're going to capture anything up to the moment prior to, over and above the applicant's last statement that they sent to us with the application. So it's going to be an up to the date, up to the minute submittal. We change we'll adjust that accounting according to what the servicing bank says is due. And 99% of the time, it's more than the applicant has asked for.
And does that work for utilities as well?
Yes, it does. They have to verify balance. That's the last step, right? So they've approved eligibility. The last step right before they approve payment is verification of balance. And I wanted to say one more thing is that we have set up something with the utilities. So they have to be onboarded, like they have to be participating and be a part of our portal, but we are actually uploading a file into their secure folder to give them a list of every applicant that has applied and put them down as their utility provider. So we started this with Green Mountain Power because they were so large. And because there was this kind of push that, hey, as long as everybody's, applied, they need to hold off on cutting off utilities. Well, then all the utilities were like, well, how do I get a list of applicants? So we are actually uploading a file for them of all the applicants that have applications that have come in and listed them as a provider into their portal. So as long as they have signed up, they're onboarded, and they're participating, they can get that list. So the applicant may not have to contact them, although that's always a great step. We are trying to be proactive and updating the utilities for the applicants of, hey, these people have applied.
Kira, does that answer your questions?
Hi there. Yeah, mostly. The other one was I've had a real time of it just getting access to the case management in all of these weeks that it's been available. And since you sent out, Leslie, that link to go in and set up your password, to go and, change out and make my own password, that took me probably 2 weeks to actually get access. And only one other time have I been able to get access to the site. I'm really going there just to check and make sure if there's any, because I just wasn't 100% sure how to use that in the very beginning, right? And I just wanted to make sure, if someone's reached out and they need me to do something, I just want to go in and check. And so I keep going in every couple of days and trying 3 or 4 times, and it times out. And I don't know, it seems like my colleagues are having the same situation. And this is happening from our home offices and the place of, the physical office. And so I don't think it's the internet connection, or maybe it's on the other end. I don't know. Has anybody else had that issue?
Kira, do you have your own in-house IT, or do you have a managed services provider working with you?
How about neither?
And Dave, I'm not exactly sure which one there was, but there was the only outreach that I know of where we were working with someone on connectivity issues, because I don't know if she's contacted anyone about that, but was a situation where they had no way to have a static IP address. Okay. So every time they're going to go in, we're having to update IP address because they have no static address to provide, which means we can't whitelist them forever, right? So that's one of the things, and I don't know if that was you Kira, but that is the only one that I know that we've been struggling with connectivity was with a agency that had no way to establish a static IP.
Right, and that makes sense to me because I have another tool that I use that has that same IP address issue, and every time I go from my home office to my work office and switch and try to use this other application, I have to spend 20 minutes on the phone with this other company to get them to update my IP address. So that could be the issue. I'm not really sure. I just mostly, I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part to hold up both sides of this, process, right? So the client portal or where they go to use that tool has been really wonderful and easy to use, but we also have folks that don't have email addresses, and we at our organization have made the choice to not be creating email addresses for people, because the assumption is that if they don't have an email address, they don't have a way to check it. And how are they going to, receive communications? So we've gone to the paper, and I just want to make sure that, okay, if I go to paper, how am I being most efficient based on what you folks have set up? Yeah, anyway, really appreciate all the good feedback and regular meetings. So thank you.
Thanks, Kira. Tricia, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. I had a question and a comment as well. I think some of the struggles that as housing counselors that we've been running into, I think some of it might just come from a misunderstanding of the role or how we're facilitating the application. And that is that we're not, I can only speak for myself, of course, but I'm not on the phone with people who are comfortable using the portal and then they're just having me on the phone to guide them through. It's the reverse. I'm doing the portal, the application on the portal with them on the phone. And I found that the portal is useful, and that's how the customer portal is how I've been entering the applications. But that works, and it works great, and it's simple when everything is there. The hang up that I'm having is what we were talking about regarding the signature. And then the other hang up is also what we've been discussing regarding email address. And so now I'm understanding, instead of doing it through the case management portal, which is what my understanding was from the last meeting, and thank you for clarifying it and working that out, is that we'll do paper. I do worry that most people that we work with are going to be paper applications, and I just want to make sure everyone's prepared for this influx of paper applications in that regard. I'm also having trouble with the people with email addresses and everything, but I can't get a signature. So we came up with the solution. Karen helped troubleshoot that a couple meetings ago, of use the paper, the last couple pages from the paper application with the signed authorizations, and then we can upload that at the end. And when I'm trying to upload that signature at the end, it's not recognizing and finding that form. And I'm wondering, is there a particular format, like I'm saving it as a PDF, and so then I'm stuck in the water and I can't submit the application. So I don't know if anyone else has run into that, or if there's any suggestion on how to make that work, because I'm struggling with that.
Are you saying because you can't upload the document, or because you don't put a signature in the box, you can't close out the?
Well, at the signature box, there's a spot where you can sign it electronically, or there's a spot where you can upload a signature. It says upload signature.
Okay. Yep.
And I can't upload the signature. So I'm like, I'm
right.
stuck.
So because you're trying to actually upload a document, not a photo signature.
Does it need to
and
be?
I have to look and see. Well, that's intended to actually upload a signature. So like you've written a signature, not an entire document, right? So it would be like just a picture of your signature. Two things, Leslie, we should probably talk to George about if they select, I'm an authorized representative, if they can sign there on behalf. We might have to change the attestation in order for that to happen, or add another box. Or also maybe enter in that box, please see uploaded signature page, and then add a document upload for them to upload that document signature page. I'm not sure if there's an other upload for documents.
There's not,
Right,
unless
that's what I'm thinking.
because it's driven by the answers to the questions.
Yeah, and I think you're already past that when you get to that signature page, right? So maybe we could have a place to upload the signature page and just put in that box, please see, document upload or something like that, where you just type that in instead of the signature. So it's capturing it as quote unquote the signature, but it's referencing the case manager to look elsewhere. So those are just some thoughts of maybe how we could address it. And we could talk about that in our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Because that really has been my only obstacle in using the customer portal. But with the exception, my second question was just, well, oftentimes people come to us for the application, they also come to us after the application's been submitted. And what I've found is because I go through the customer portal and because the application once it's submitted is not meant to be modified in any way, when somebody comes to me after the fact and something needs to be added, I have no way of doing that. I can do it if it's a document that's been requested, and that works out great. And I've helped people with that multiple times. And that system is great. But for example, I had somebody recently who didn't realize, but they had applied for the utility assistance through HAP program, and then they didn't realize their appointment with me applying for the mortgage was the same program somehow. So, so given that they can within that 6-month period add the request for mortgage assistance, I don't know what that process is, and I have an appointment with them on Friday to add this, and I can't see any place where I'd be able to do that. So I'm looking for some instruction on that. And a similar example is after someone's application was submitted, the town then sent me an even more updated property tax statement, and I have no way to add it again. So I'm just wondering if you can give us some guidance on what our process should be after an application's been submitted in those scenarios.
Can I just piggyback on that really quickly? Because we've had that a few times as well, where folks apply on their own and they may not have checked that they want legal assistance on the form, but now I'm working with them because maybe after they've submitted their application, they get served with foreclosure papers. And I want to be able to see what's going on in their portal. Can there be some process for us getting them into the legal assistance track once they've submitted the application and haven't checked the right box? And what would that process look like?
They could either call the call center. They have the ability to assign some of those, or you could send an email and request, hey, this is the applicant, the case number, whatever, they need assistance from me, and can you assign this to legal aid or to this HCA or whatever. And then they, when it gets to that point, they can make sure that that's assigned so that you'll be able to see it.
Okay, thank you.
And then as far as the other question about adding on a program, and since your meeting is like in a day or two, I would just have them submit another application because it's a separate program, so it shouldn't affect. They can come back as long as it's a different program. The system will flag that it's a duplicate application, but they will merge to see that it's a separate program that they're requesting additional funds for.
It actually doesn't let you.
I was just gonna jump. Rebecca, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but as long as that submittal for the additional assistance is done within a 6-month period from the date of application, then it works, right? There's a time frame.
Yes.
Except you can't, when you log in, it recognizes that email is already on file, so it doesn't let you progress to a new application.
I'll have to check that because I thought there was a way to add, and maybe it's where your current application is in the process, that it's not allowing, and it's almost too new. So let me check on that and see if I can get a response back that Leslie can share.
Thank you, because there might be a way. I just haven't found it, and it'd be helpful to know so we don't have to get held up. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Worst case scenario, fill it out on paper and send it in, and the case manager can add it.
Great, thank you so much.
Also, I know you had a question about receiving a new property tax bill and uploading it. Just as a reminder, we have to reach out to them and they're going to give us the updated amount. You can also email that updated tax bill to us. We can upload it, but we are going to check with them. And if there's been a change in the amount, it will get updated.
Michael, can I ask a question about that? Because I've actually seen in the portal that there are communications being sent to clients asking for updated bills. And I was confused about that because I thought, just as you said, that at the time of the program, eligibility review, you're going to have to check in with that utility provider or that mortgage servicer to get the most up to date. information. So I'm curious why people are being asked for updated utility bills.
It would depend on the utility bill that they submitted. I mean, if they submitted a utility bill from 6 months ago, you know, it really depends on the situation. If it's just like it's 3 weeks ago, I can't imagine that anybody is asking them for an updated bill. If
I mean,
so,
I have one that was like a January bill, and that was the most up to date water bill that they had had, and it's fine. I mean, I email. I'm just concerned because I'm not involved in every case. So if these are going out to people and that's holding up applications, it just seems to me it's unnecessary because you're going to follow up and get the most up to date figure in any event.
Next time you have one of those, you can also email me and I can look into it for you, see why they're requesting it. Because I know sometimes you don't always have access to the application. Or if
Okay.
I do, I can check it, see what's going on.
Thanks.
Leslie, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Had to take George's position there.
Oh my gosh, it's been a while since I've done that, but there were sirens here. Thank you so much for being understanding. Peter has had his hand up for a while and I wanted to let him have a turn.
Thanks. This relates a little bit to some of these prior questions, but it was my understanding, and I did miss the last meeting, but that you can, quote, apply ahead was my understanding. So the situation I've come up against with one individual is they're like 2 months behind in their mortgage, but they anticipate they're going to get further behind. They may be ultimately not quite a year behind before their employment situation will change enough so that they will be able to maintain the mortgage. So I'm wondering how that would work in the situation where you're going to reach out to the mortgage company. They're going to say, oh yeah, they're 4 months behind. Well, you know, you're going to take care of that, but then they're still going to be continuing to be behind.
I can jump in on that, Peter. So what, unfortunately, the program doesn't allow for prepayment. And I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, that's what you're saying. So what I would say in a situation like that is that, you know, they wait, I guess, until they're at a place and point in time where they really need that assistance. If they're at 2 months and they can possibly wait for another 2 months, because as you know, as we know with mortgages, they're definitely, it takes a long time before you actually go down that foreclosure road anyway. So my suggestion would be wait until they absolutely have every bit of need for the mortgage assistance, because once they come in, it's one and done. They can't come back for mortgage again. I mean, they could come back for utilities and that, but not for the mortgage. So I would say hold on until you definitely really need it and get the assistance you can get, the most you can get.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. It's just I have a hard time convincing individuals that they need to get further behind than they are now. They don't want to do that.
Well, Peter, a thing to do too is to have them work with a servicer for a forbearance agreement, because in the situations of deferrals and things like that, you contractually bring the loan current and we wouldn't be able to exist. So, but with a forbearance, you know, they're there in suspense and we can go in and grab all those payments. So if they're nervous, go into a forbearance.
Okay. That's helpful.
And they can do 3 and then 3 again. And so they may be up to 6 months, but that's when they really need it. Come on in and get it then. But they should be able to get that forbearance to keep them from being, you know, a nervous wreck, which I understand.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
One thing I do also want to mention, Joseph, as applicants have reached out, they've all been worried about how far behind they are and asking if we can speed up their application. The problem is, I mean, everybody's in the same boat. That's what this program is for. That's something you just kind of have to remind them about sometimes, gently. But that's one thing I've noticed at a lot of applicants are just calling or emailing, reminding us that they're behind, but everyone is.
Thanks, Mike. Robin, I want to make sure your question was answered. You were asking if somebody does a paper application, how do they get information about their application? How are they contacted if more information is required? And I'm hoping that Michael or Rebecca or Polly can answer that.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Leslie?
If someone completes a paper application, how will they receive updates about their application? How will they be contacted if more application is required, if more information is required?
They'll be contacted, but the case managers will reach out either by the contact information. That's why it's so important, and Michael has stressed, phone number, good mailing address, all those things are so important because the case manager needs to be able to reach out to get that additional information. If the applicant is looking for more information, they can always call into the call center and say, hey, I realized I made a mistake, or hey, I did, this, that, or the other. And the call center can give them a status as to, where it is, can take that additional information for the case manager and those things. So if it's initiated by the case manager will reach out. If the applicant needs to call in or wants to just inquire, they can call the call center.
So the root of my question was really, I have a client who called, who applied the day after the application went live, is in, really financial hardship situation right now and had his phone shut off on March 1st. So on the 28th, he called me very frantic. He called very frantic and really got no information except that sometime in March, hopefully he would be receiving payment. And so now if the only way to reach out to this person is via mail, will that hold up the application? Will they be sent letters in the mail? That's really, because there's no longer an active phone number. So that's really where the root of my question was coming from.
Yeah, that will be a more challenging approach, right? Because that just takes time to get those communications back and forth, and then your mail's like my mail doesn't always very reliable. So I don't know if they can maintain contact with someone like Polly or Michael that can help them. I know they don't have an active phone line at home, or if they can, I don't know. That's a situation that just is going to be difficult because of where they are. Unfortunately, we can't. They will receive mail, but we can't guarantee. There's no guarantee on mail. There's also not much more we can offer, I don't think. Unless they can come in to one of the HCAs and work with someone in person.
Okay.
And maybe they could always they could use an alternative phone, someone else's phone number, and call in and have that change made during the interim so that there is contact.
Assign an authorized representative to that account to speak and collect information for them, or even use daughter, brother, sister's email address to get those notices more quickly. Something like that's a great idea, Polly.
Okay. What questions are most pressing right now? We have 8 minutes. There's a lot of questions in the chat that I probably haven't gotten a chance to read yet. I will, I will go through these with our team here, and if we didn't get a chance to address them during our time together, one of us will get back to you with a response. Anybody have anything that can't wait that we want to talk about as a group today?
I guess I've got something. I guess I'm still a little confused about how we're supposed to be using the case management portal, because my understanding was that if we put our applications in through that, we would be able to check on their status. Like, I remember having a conversation with you guys about how VREP, we go in through the customer interface, and then to check their status, we literally have to log into every single account. So every Monday morning, Robin goes into every single account separately to check and make sure it's moving ahead. And I thought that the case management portal was supposed to relieve us of that we would be able to access those applications that we're responsible for through that portal. But it sounds, I guess I'm confused. Like you don't want us to enter applications that way. So we would then enter them through the customer interface, and will they show up on our list there? And can we check on the status of them through the case management portal?
So they wouldn't show up till they've been deemed eligible to receive assistance. And then that's when they would be assigned to you in the case management portal, and you could then contact the client and work with them and provide counseling to them. And then once you provide counseling, you would just add a note and create a task and assign it to the case manager, just saying that the counseling has been completed.
Okay, so where do we, I don't know anything about that. And also there's several people, when I logged on yesterday, there's people in my portal that I've never heard of. I haven't received an email about. Maybe someone else here did. I don't know. I was like, oh my God, who are all these folks?
So they're showing up on your HCA screen as awaiting counseling?
Yeah, and maybe
it's just whoever requested housing counseling assistance and was in, I can't remember if it's assigned by zip code or county but jurisdiction. They're assigned to the corresponding HCA. So you may not have been somebody you put in or that you're aware of, but it's somebody who has requested counseling assistance that would fall under.
Okay, so that's the way I will know that I'm supposed to contact them, is that I'll find them there.
They'll show up on your list as once they've been listed as eligible for the program. Yes.
So in terms of putting in tasks, I'm just wondering, because I have this coming up in some of my cases where I provide initial legal advice. We determine like, okay, what needs to happen now is the mortgage delinquency needs to be paid as quickly as possible. But I want to make sure that when I send a task or put in a note that says legal advice has been provided, please, move forward with program review, that I will still have them in my portal so I can follow along and know exactly when payment has been made, and that won't be removed from my legal assistance portal. Is that
That's
how
correct? And I would just assign a task, because it's a lot more, I don't want to say in your face, but in your face to a case manager than just a case note. They have to really kind of be looking for all those new case notes, where a task is like assigned to them. They have to take action on it. So the task is, especially for something like that, is much more proactive.
Okay. And Rebecca, sometimes there's a bunch of different case managers or like someone else doing quality control. Like, who do we assign it? How do we know which of the people that are in the tasks we assign our task to?
I know what you're saying, because there are different tasks, and that depends on whether they're in the QC process or the eligibility. Like, we have different case managers that do different steps for segregation of duty and due diligence to make sure that things are done correctly. But I believe, Michael, you might know, there's a screen that has the ultimate case manager. I think it's listed as the eligibility specialist or something. We can get a screenshot maybe and share it out of where that will be listed.
Okay. For now, I've just been using like the first name that's listed under the tasks.
And that's fine. That's fine, because that's probably the initial eligibility specialist. And if they're not, they can always pass it on to reassign it to the person who needs to take action on that. So that should work just fine.
Thanks, Grace. Thanks, Rebecca. Shonda, you've had your hand up for a while. What's your question or comment?
Oh, I wanted to ask about legal aid. When we submit applications and they're requesting like a high priority, you know, because they are in a financial situation, whether it's foreclosure or tax sale, how long does it take for that to reach legal aid and, you know, for someone to contact them and kind of get everything as a high priority?
So are you saying that the applicant requested legal services on the application, or that you helped the applicant to select legal
Yes,
services when
I
they
help
applied?
applicants to select it if I know it's like a high priority issue.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I was just going to say, you could always email Polly or Michael too and flag it that, you know, this needs to be escalated. Here's the situation. And they can be in contact with the program manager to make sure that it gets escalated in the process. It depends on, I know there's some information in there to ask if you're in foreclosure. You know, sometimes that status changes while the application's in process. Sometimes they didn't, maybe if you help them with the application, you know, I feel better that maybe that got in there, but sometimes they don't even click that, or they don't know what's the difference between foreclosure and forbearance, and they get very confused. So I just say it's worth reaching out to Polly or Michael just to say, here's the situation with this case. This is what we need. Especially if there's legal action pending.
So Shonda, I will say that in my experience, based on talking to housing counselors, you know, who have said I've assisted this person to apply, and we checked the legal assistance box. It seems to be taking anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks. So I can't say what the process is on VHFA's side. But what I would say to do, if you have somebody who has been served with foreclosure papers, is to have them call our 800 number.
Okay.
And I'll put that in the chat again, because the way our contract works with VHFA, we have a helpline. We can provide, you know, one-time quick advice to somebody who calls, and just a standard packet that will at least give them the information they need to answer the complaint and to request a stay based on having submitted a VHAP application. But then only once they come through the VHFA portal to us and have been reviewed for eligibility can we sort of provide ongoing assistance. And if they need actual representation in the foreclosure, at that point, we can get sort of more involved in the case. But we can still give them, you know, that one-time advice that they may need, you know, to respond to the complaint and all of that good stuff if they call our 800 line.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks you all. We got to 10 o'clock pretty quick, and I know there was a lot of chatting, and I'll go through that again and make sure we got to those. And if we didn't, one of us will get back to you. But I just wanted to remind you again that we will put this recording on the HAP Affiliates Toolbox webpage, and to remind you that this is the list that applicants see if they are looking for help with their application. It is this list of organizations. This is not talking about housing counseling or legal services, but if somebody is looking for information or help with their application, they are directed to this page. So these are the organizations and the contact people and contact information at those organizations that the applicants, the homeowners see. So if you need changes, if you see that are changes or need to be made to this, please let us know at homeownerassistance@vhfa.org. Thank you so much for all you're doing. It's amazing how many homeowners we've reached through this program so quickly. It's only been about a month and a half since the program opened, and thousands of homeowners are applying, thanks in large part to your help spreading the word and working with these homeowners. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you.